What if I told you the true magic of Golden Age Hollywood wasn't just on the screen, but underfoot, in the sound of rain on fake sidewalks and footsteps on plywood? While audiences worship stars, a secret army of Foley artists made every punch, kiss, and crash feel real. Can a single door slam change a classic film forever? Tonight, we'll dig into 10 movies where invisible sound wizards made stories come alive, and what you hear might just rewrite film history for you. King Kong, 1933. How do you make a giant gorilla stomp through New York when your star is stop motion and your city's a miniature? For King Kong, the answer was pure Foley alchemy and boundary-pushing creativity. Sound legend. Murray Spivak didn't just invent a monster roar, he invented a new language for movie sound. To bring Kong to life, Spivak blended a lion's roar played backwards with slowed-down tiger growls, then filtered the result through a gramophone horn and tweaked the pitch, creating a guttural, bone-rattling bellow that sounded like nothing on Earth. Audiences in 1933 had never heard anything so monstrous, so believable, and it shook theaters to their foundations. But Kong wasn't just a voice. Every stomp, every shuddering footstep, and every building crumbling under his fury was crafted in Spivak's tiny studio. Foley artists pounded coconut shells on gravel and wood, tossed sandbags for thunderous impacts, and snapped splintered boards to mimic collapsing skyscrapers. When Kong punches a train off its tracks, the impact is a team whacking piano wires with metal pipes, each blow recorded and mixed for perfect metallic violence. Even the teeming jungle, so thick with unseen danger, wasn't captured on some exotic expedition. It was conjured up by shaking metal sheets for thunder, squishing handfuls of celery for plant life, and tromping through shredded newspaper to imitate thick undergrowth. It was new territory. Most moviegoers had never experienced a world that sounded this big, this dangerous, or this real. The Foley team's obsession with sonic detail made King Kong leap off the screen, blurring the line between special effects and pure magic. The result? King Kong didn't just look alive, it sounded alive. Strip away the Foley, and Kong is just a stop-motion puppet. Add it, and he becomes a legend, proof that in Hollywood, the story you hear can be just as unforgettable as the one you see. The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938. Why does Errol Flynn's Robin Hood sound so sharp and heroic? It's not just the Technicolor spectacle or Flynn's rakish grin, it's the unseen wizardry of Foley. Behind every swish of an arrow and clash of steel, there's a backroom team transforming everyday objects into the soundtrack of adventure. The film's legendary arrow strikes, not a product of actual archery, but the unmistakable crunch of knitting needles plunged into fresh cabbages and heads of lettuce. For sword fights, it wasn't just old movie magic. Kitchen cutlery was banged, scraped, and rattled until the metallic ring matched the on-screen bravado, creating a signature sound for every parry and thrust. Those galloping hooves echoing through Sherwood Forest? No horses required. Foley artists rhythmically knocked coconut shells and halves on wooden boards, carefully changing rhythm and force to match each chase, ambush, or last-minute escape. Sometimes, for added drama, they'd mix in handfuls of gravel or a tray of dirt for that extra earthy crunch. Leaves rustling overhead or underfoot were recreated with bags of dried corn husks or piles of newspaper, while creaking bows were mimicked with stretched rope and well-oiled hinges. The magic didn't stop at individual sounds. Every Foley cue was performed live, perfectly in sync with the swashbuckling action. As if the sound team was conducting a musical score of chaos and triumph. The result is pure kinetic energy. Audiences didn't just see Robin Hood's world, they felt it. Every ambush, every leap from a tree, every ring of steel was real in the gut and on the skin. Strip away this soundscape, and Robin Hood would be a silent pageant, grand but hollow. But with Foley, the whole world of Nottingham sings, rings, and thrills, turning a fairy tale into a living, breathing legend. In the Golden Age, adventure wasn't just watched, it was half heard, half lived. Casablanca, 1942. Here's looking at you, kid, but listen closely. Casablanca is more than smoky romance, trench coats, and immortal one-liners. Its true secret weapon is the rich tapestry of ambient sound, all conjured in a Hollywood studio. long before location microphones or digital trickery became the norm. Every footstep on those echoing marble floors in Rick's cafe, every glass softly set on a wooden table, every flutter of a curtain in the Moroccan night breeze, none of it was captured live. Instead, teams of Foley artists spent painstaking hours recreating the heartbeat of Casablanca from scratch, using the simplest tools. For the polished floor, a custom-built shoeboard was dusted with flour and sand, so each heel clicked and slid, just like Bergman's. When Ingrid Bergman glides across the room, it's actually a Foley artist in high heels, moving in sync, layering heartache and hope into every measured step. Even the sound of distant rain, so essential for the film's longing and melancholy, wasn't left to chance. Foley crews sifted rice onto parchment paper, stretched taut, varying their rhythm to match the storm outside Rick's windows. That gentle patter, soft but insistent, became the film's emotional undertone, settling over every impossible choice and final farewell. Glasses clinked with the help of delicate stemware and tiny metal taps, while swirling curtains were made by whipping silk scarves just out of frame. The hustle and bustle of the cafe's crowds, a carefully choreographed dance of shoes, voices, and utensils, performed in layers to give the sense of a world always in motion. This unseen craft gave Casablanca its lived-in, world-weary atmosphere, a place both real and dreamlike, suspended in the fog of war and memory. You may swoon for Bogart, but it's the Foley that truly transports you to wartime Morocco, making every heartbreak, every glance, and every hope sound achingly real. Strip away those crafted sounds, and the film loses its soul. With them, Casablanca is a timeless, immersive classic. The Maltese Falcon, 1941. Film noir is all about shadows, but what about the sounds lurking in those shadows? The Maltese Falcon is packed with crackling tension and dark allure, and its Foley work is the film's hidden skeleton, giving weight and electricity to every moment. Detective Sam Spade's relentless footsteps echo down rain-soaked corridors, the unmistakable slap of leather soles recreated by Foley artists, tapping vintage shoes against plywood and tile, matching Bogart's every swagger and sudden stop. The whisper and rustle of trench coats, so essential to noir's style, was achieved with sheets of stiff canvas, flicked and swished by hand, until each movement sounded just right, cautious, secretive, dangerous. And who could forget that fateful Falcon statuette? Its iconic thud on Spade's battered desk was crafted by dropping a heavy lead weight onto a marble slab, recording the solid, ominous sound until it felt as consequential as a murder. Even the simple click of a revolver wasn't left to chance. Foley artists would load and cock real guns, adding extra tension by placing the mic close, capturing every ominous tick and snap. Rainy San Francisco nights were brought to life by gently pouring water onto metal sheets, sometimes mixed with pebbles and grit for added texture, layered in post to create that endless city drizzle. Office chairs creaked with age, wooden frames subtly wrenched by handoff screen, while the jangle of keys, the slam of file drawers, and even the squeak of Venetian blinds all became tools of suspense, each sound sharpened to heighten unease. These weren't natural noises, but hand-picked deliberate choices designed to make viewers feel a threat lurking just out of sight. Strip away Foley, and noir becomes a silent movie in the dark. With it, every whispered threat, every secret rendezvous, and every betrayal slams home, making danger crackle around every corner, as real as the shadows themselves. Singin' in the Rain, 1952. How do you make the world's most famous downpour sound magical when the microphones are pointed at Gene Kelly's voice? With pure, joyous Foley, crafted by a team as determined to dazzle as Kelly himself. The movie's iconic rain wasn't left to the mercy of the studio's soundstage. Instead, the Foley crew spent days and nights splashing, pouring, and experimenting, searching for the perfect musical patter. They used everything from metal trays and tin wash basins to soundproof bathtubs, creating layers of rainfall with different objects for different types of splashes. The result was a rich, textured storm you can practically feel on your skin. But it's not just the rain. To capture the magical splash of Kelly's exuberant dance steps, the team filled puddles with a blend of water and milk, making each stomp crisper and more audible on tape. extra shoes with custom-made soles, some rubber, some leather, some even lined with strips of wet felt, were used for different rhythms, each selected to emphasize every joyous hop, tap, and kick. The umbrella spins and swooshes were Foley artists twirling umbrellas and snapping them open in time with the choreography, adding another whimsical layer. Even the street's iconic creaky lamppost wasn't left to chance. The sound is actually a groaning door hinge, oiled just enough for the perfect romantic moan, recorded and looped to sync with Kelly's lean and swing. Passing cars, distant thunder, and the subtle pitter-patter on the set's cobblestones were each recorded separately and then blended to bring the entire scene to life. The result? A rainstorm that doesn't just fall, it sings. The Foley here is pure celebration, a hidden star as radiant as Kelly himself. Strip it away, and that legendary number is little more than a silent dance in the dark. With it, every drop, splash, and sigh is an invitation to pure movie magic. The Third Man, 1949. Vienna's seedy post-war streets don't just look haunted, they sound haunted, thanks to some of the most meticulous Foley artistry of the Golden Age. The Third Man isn't content to just show a city crawling with suspicion and danger. It makes you hear it in every frame. The echoes of running footsteps, sometimes desperate, sometimes predatory, weren't left to chance. Foley artists recreated those sounds live, timing their rhythms to the film's tense edits and using mismatched shoes on uneven wooden boards to mimic the city's infamous battered cobblestones. Each footfall seems to ricochet off wet stone and into the dark, making you feel the paranoia closing in. The splash of dirty puddles wasn't the result of location sound, but of water poured carefully onto tile, then splashed with gloved hands to get just the right city grime effect. For the legendary zither theme that floats through Vienna's back alleys, the Foley team layered in subtle ambient noises, bottles gently knocked together for passing revelers, muted chatter conjured with whispered voices behind a door, and the hum of distant traffic produced by rubbing textured glass. Carol Reed, the director, demanded nothing less than obsessive realism. Manhole covers were scraped with crowbars off-screen, bottles were smashed just out of view, and wooden doors were banged to create echoes of Vienna's crumbling buildings. And then there's the film's unforgettable climax in the city's underbelly. The chase through the labyrinthine sewers demanded a sonic world all its own. Buckets of water poured and slapped across tile, hollow pipes struck and dragged for reverberating drips, and footsteps mic'd so close you can almost feel the cold. In The Third Man, sound design isn't just atmosphere, it's a living, breathing character, lurking in every shadow and every echo, making you shiver as if the city's secrets might spill from the speakers at any second. It's not just what you see in Vienna, but what you hear that keeps you looking over your shoulder. Rear Window, 1954. How do you create a bustling New York apartment courtyard when you're stuck on a Hollywood soundstage? The answer, as always in the Golden Age, is pure Foley magic. In Rear Window, every off-screen conversation, every barking dog, every clattering dish and passing bicycle bell was meticulously layered by hand, transforming one massive set into a living, breathing neighborhood that feels as real as any city block. Foley artists mixed together recordings of real city birds and distant Manhattan traffic, with laundry lines flapping in the breeze, sometimes just silk scarves rippling near a fan. But that was only the beginning. For the bicycle scenes, wheels were spun on wooden crates, and bicycle bells chimed just out of frame, their distance carefully adjusted to match how far they appeared on screen. Glass bottles were gently knocked together to create the echo of busy neighbors, while tiny chairs and tables were dragged across sheets of linoleum to capture the authentic scrape of daily life. The sound team even went so far as to create apartment acoustics, layering muffled radio music and half-heard laughter, then filtering it as if it were traveling through brick and plaster. Grace Kelly's iconic entrance is more than a performance. It's an oral event. Every click of her heels across the apartment floor was performed by a Foley artist in perfectly chosen shoes, matched to the rhythm of her walk and the tension in each scene. Hitchcock, ever the perfectionist, demanded that every background sound have a purpose, every door slam or window opening not just part of the scenery, but a piece of the story's suspense. In Rear Window, Foley doesn't just add atmosphere, it becomes the pulse of the film, a constant reminder that what you don't see may be even scarier than what you do. In the hands of these masters, a single city block became a whole world, one you could almost step into if you just listened closely enough. The African Queen, 1951. Jungle adventure feels real, not just because of what you see, but what you hear. Even though The African Queen was famously filmed partly on location in the heart of Africa, it's the unsung heroes back in Hollywood who made the jungle pulse with life. After the camera stopped rolling, the Foley artists got to work, tasked with conjuring an entire wild world from scratch. River water wasn't captured on set. It was simulated in the studio, with buckets sloshed, poured, and agitated with paddles, each take mixed to match the moods of raging rapids or lazy drifts. For the maddening, ever-present drone of jungle insects, they layered sounds from wind-up toys, old fishing reels, and the careful crumpling of cellophane, building a buzzing chorus that never let the audience forget where they were. And then, there are the details that make the film so tactile. The slap of Humphrey Bogart's paddle in the river, that wasn't left to chance. Foley artists timed each splash using a plank and a water-filled tub, syncing the rhythm to Bogart's strokes so precisely that you can almost feel the spray. Those famously grotesque leeches clinging to skin and making viewers squirm. That sticky, squishy sound is nothing more than strips of wet sponge slapped onto hands and arms, layered for maximum cringe. From distant thunder and sudden rainstorms, created with sheets of metal and shaken pebbles, to the low rumble of engines and the screech of wildlife, everything you hear was carefully performed and recorded in post-production. The result is a living, buzzing world, as immersive and convincing as anything filmed on location. Without this oral artistry, the danger and grit would never leave the screen. The African Queen proves that no matter how far you travel from Hollywood, movie magic always happens in a studio, with a microphone and a box of tricks wielded by artists you'll never see. Sunset Boulevard, 1950. The silent film era haunts every frame of Sunset Boulevard, but its sound is alive with drama and delicious irony thanks to sly, subtle, and meticulous Foley work. Norma Desmond's grand mansion, at once a palace and a prison, creaks in size with every step, each echo carrying the weight of faded stardom. Foley artists brought this world to life by layering the soft brush of velvet gloves on polished wood for those iconic gliding entrances, while every footstep down marble halls was captured with shoes on slabs, mic'd for just the right ghostly resonance. Even Norma's lavish turbans, a symbol of her decadent nostalgia, swish with the understated rustle of silk scarves and gentle brushing of soft fabrics, making luxury almost audible. The old house itself becomes a character, restless and ominous. Distant clocks chime mournfully, their bells recorded in echo chambers to suggest time frozen and warped within those walls. Antique telephones, tools of desperate communication, were recreated using actual 1920s models, their rings enhanced and layered for a surreal, isolated effect. Windows groan, staircases sigh, and every door closes with a finality that's almost theatrical. When Joe Gillis makes his fateful dive into the mansion's pool, the film's unforgettable opening and ending, the splash was engineered in a Hollywood bathtub, with Foley artists layering in small buckets of water, splashes recorded at different angles, and even a stone dropped to mimic the haunting final plunk. The unspoken tension and madness in the mansion are carried by sound, muffled footsteps in velvet corridors, whispered threats behind locked doors, and the omnipresent ticking of time running out. It's the great irony of Sunset Boulevard, a film about silent pictures made unforgettable by its rich, evocative soundscape. Even in a story haunted by the ghosts of silence, the audio whispers secrets, screams for attention, and ensures that, in classic Hollywood, what you hear is just as captivating as what you see. On the Waterfront, 1954. Noir grit meets blue-collar poetry on the docks, and the Foley is the beating heart that keeps On the Waterfront so powerfully alive. Every crate dropped onto splintered boards, every shuffling boot scraping against concrete, every gull circling overhead was painstakingly crafted in post-production, bringing the rough waterfront to life with raw, visceral detail. The groan of massive cargo ships wasn't recorded on location, but recreated with twisted metal sheets, winches, and thick ropes stretched until they howled. The bone-deep chill of the early morning air was conjured by cracking blocks of ice in the studio, the sound layered with jackets whipped briskly through cold gusts of wind. It's the little details that give the world its soul. When Brando's Terry Malloy nervously fiddles with Eva Marie Saint's glove, one of cinema's most vulnerable human moments, the soft rustle of fabric was enhanced by Foley artists, their hands in close-up, capturing the slight shiver of tension and intimacy. Every background noise, the distant clank of rusted chains, the rumble of trucks shifting gears, the hollow echo of empty lots where hope seems to drain away, was hand-picked and layered to drive home the film's atmosphere of struggle and resignation. Water slaps against pilings, bottles clink in back alleys, and the ever-present cry of seagulls was recorded separately, then woven into the film like an audio thread, stitching the city's working-class soul together. Even the crunch of gravel underfoot and the distant bark of dockside dogs were carefully added to make the world feel unvarnished and heartbreakingly real. Sound in On the Waterfront doesn't just set the stage, it raises the stakes, grounds every hard-won moment in truth, and makes you feel the weight of every decision. It's a film where the reality isn't just seen, it's felt in your bones, proving that sometimes it's the sounds you barely notice that make the story unforgettable. Think sound is just a silent partner in classic cinema? The Golden Age proved otherwise. Behind every legendary moment was a Foley artist with a hammer, a tray, or a pair of shoes, building worlds you could feel. Which of these films changed how you hear stories? Or is there a classic we missed? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe, and keep your ears open. The next time you watch an old favorite, you might just discover a whole new world hiding in the soundtrack. After all, in Hollywood, what you hear as often as legendary as what you see.